Organize Me Radio, episode 61, Situational Disorganization. I'm Naeemah Ford Goldson. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Organize Me Radio. I'm Naeemah Ford Goldson, and today's guest is the founder of the Modern Steward. Please welcome Kimberly Hairston-Neal. Welcome, Kimberly.
Hi, Naeemah. It's so good to be with you today.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to get to know a little bit more about you and your business. So, can you tell me, how did you get your start in the organizing industry?
So in 2014, my husband and I blended our families. During that time, I realized how intentional I needed to be with time management to meet some of our family's goals. I decided to start my own business, and originally I began offering personal assistant services. Quite a few of the physicians that I worked for took me up on the offer, so immediately I was employed. But after about 6 months of being in these professionals' homes, I realized that they had all of the support they really needed, whether it was a housekeeper, a nanny, a dog walker, and such. But organization was at the core of their issues. From there, I set out to design a solution that would help these professionals and their families.
Okay, so then what is your specialty when it comes to organizing?
So I specialize in situational disorganization, primarily move management. So most people can identify a time in their life where things just went haywire, so to speak, or they can go back and say, I was organized up until this happened in life. And so we primarily work with individuals that are going through those transitions, as I said, move management, maybe adding a new member to the family, accepting a promotion. All of these things require a change in the way you live and sometimes affect the household as well.
So I love that you mentioned that that's your specialty because that's what we're talking about today, situational
Mhm.
disorganization. Can you tell me what the difference is between situational disorganization and chronic disorganization?
Yeah. So the way that I simply state it is that most people who are dealing with chronic disorganization will say to me from the clients that I've worked with in the past that they have always been disorganized. In addition to hiring a professional organizer, they also receive support, whether that's from a physician, a psychiatrist, maybe some other type of therapy or support system. Whereas with situational disorganization, as I mentioned earlier, um, as we say, life happens. There's a moment in life. We've all dealt with it at some point in life. But there seems to be an end in sight, or there seems to be some solution. Whereas with the chronic disorganization, it's not to say that there's not a solution, but the professional organizing is only one part of that solution.
So then you mentioned moving, you mentioned, of course, different situations in people's lives. Um, what types of other events affect our level of organization? Are there some events or life transitions that continually happen that always affect how you organize?
Yes. So I would say that 9 times out of 10, if you are moving households, that is always going to affect your level of organization. How much, based on your experience with it, the support that you receive during that transition may differ from person to person. And honestly, anytime a member of the household decides to transition in life, a new role, there is going to be some effect, like some outcome on the household. And I should say, whether you decide or it's thrown upon you. Some of us find ourselves in the position where we become caretakers, right? And it was unexpected. Um, and so it's different from planning to adding a member to your household, whereas now whether this person is moving into your household or you're taking care of another household, it may disrupt your normal, systems of organization.
So when I was in corporate America, I remember, when they give us the benefits packages and they offer, like, you might be able to get 8 therapy sessions per life event. And in there, it's like, having a baby, divorce, a death in the family, adopting a child, what have you. And there are like so many things on that list. And I remember being young and naive, of course, like being like, I don't know, 23 or something, 23 or 24, thinking, why do you need therapy for all those different things? Like, I don't get
Mhm.
it. And then fast forward to when I had my first son in 2010, when I was 20, I think a couple weeks before my 29th birthday. And I cried every single day the first week.
Mhm.
And then in my head, I'm like, okay, this is why they had those resources, because things like this, like, life events can really just shake up like what your normal was, like what you were used to. And then it's
Yes.
like you're having to figure out a different way. So, what are some ways that people can cope with these different life transitions?
Think the first thing to do is just to accept it, right?
Mm.
So again, if it's a move, if it's new responsibility, if it's a change in your household makeup or your job, taking the moment to just sit back and say, this is what life is right now, right? And these are my goals. Because you have to really think, am I going to be able to do the same things that I used to do by adding support? Or realistically, is the end goal changed? I love the example that you gave of what we would say like family medical leave. Um, some people don't know that there's such thing as an intermittent, right? Family leave. So that is acknowledging even that those big things that happen that we can say, okay, you're going to get 4 to 6 weeks, might not dissipate as quickly as we would like them to, right? Like you can't pinpoint them. And so with the intermittent leave, you could use it throughout the year. You just document, hey, I'm taking a few hours here and I'm taking a few hours there. It's very similar with planning your approach to how you're now going to get organized. Once you realize and accept what the issue is, you can then make a plan and say, is this something I can bring someone in that's going to help me create a system and it's going to fix it immediately. Now I have my mom here. We need to organize this space for her and create a new routine that includes her. Or is it something that's going to, span out for a period of time that's going to change things forever? And then what does a system or support look like for those new circumstances?
Do you find that there's a difference with people and and wanting to, I guess, get back to their level of organization if the event is anticipated versus being unanticipated? What are your thoughts?
I definitely think so. I think the hardest thing that we deal with as humans is understanding that it may never go back to what it was and accepting the new norm. And so we might waste a bunch of time and a bunch of money, like resources, trying to recreate that moment where everything just felt good. Whereas if we understand that it's fluid, it may go back, it may not, but that we should plan on the right now. Um, it helps us move along much faster. That's what my experience has been.
So, one thing that comes to mind for me that everyone was affected by was a pandemic.
Absolutely.
Did you notice like an influx of people becoming disorganized during the pandemic? What was that like for you or for your business or for your clients?
I love that question because The answer is twofold. For me, I had much more time than I ever anticipated, but it made me take a hard look at my business. So, as you know, that essential services were defined. Moving was an essential service. And I thought that was so interesting. So we were approached by a couple of relocation companies to provide service for corporate moves because those things were still happening. Whereas they didn't define space organization as essential. But from my viewpoint, it became essential to everyone because everybody was now in their homes. So we were able to offer a service to individuals to help them really focus on the key areas of their homes, like where they were spending the most time. And people took a hard look at their lives, what they wanted in their life, and what they wanted in their home. And I think they got really intentional. That was my experience. We had an uptick in business, surprisingly.
Wow. So for people that are dealing with these, life transitions, changes, what type of support can you offer them, and what type of outside support can they seek?
So the first step in the process, after the person sits down and accepts where they're at, we call it the 4 Ds. The first D might surprise you, which is delegate. Sometimes um, we take on more responsibility, but then we're less willing to let things go. And so for me, the determining factor on whether or not I can work with someone is their willingness to delegate. And we stand by the 80/20 rule. If you can give it to someone who can do it 80% as well as you, right? Because perfection is not reality, then you go ahead and you delegate that task. And then finding the right person to delegate that task to. So some of the things that we talk about when we meet with someone is to have them really list out what their day to day looks like. And then we're going to categorize those items to see if really the issue is organization, right? Because sometimes it's not. I would love to sell to everyone, but sometimes it's not. And then we're going to say, hey, we can make a life plan. Like that's why our slogan is bringing order to your life and home. Sometimes it's that I come in and I organize a space, but sometimes it's life organization. Maybe it's a punch list, and I just need to create a list of professionals that can come in and hang that light for you, right? Install that garbage disposal for you. Maybe we need to hire a new nanny because she's not respecting the boundaries that you say. You're organized, but she's not. So that's why your house is chaotic. And so when we meet with individuals, we try to look at taking off. We call them quick wins, major loads that are just going to go away, like one timers. We're gonna handle those top things on your list that are going to just create some space, and then we're going to look at if you really need professional organizing or not. And if you do, then that's when we come in and we meet with you and we create a system.
Gotcha. Okay. Can you give us an example of, maybe a person who was dealing with situational disorganization and how you help them?
Sure, I can do that. So people often think um, that this has to be a busy, two partner, 3 to 4 kid home. It can be an individual as well. And so I'll give you that example because I think it's not the norm. So I had a professional who recently took on a new role, an executive role. And so she found that the things that she used to be able to do, such as entertaining, providing support to her family and friends, her housekeeping, um, and such, as far as the maintenance of her condo, her car, were going to the wayside. So that's what we call life organization. And so we were able to, again, come in and look at what type of support she needed. Was it scheduling for the dry cleaning to be picked up? That's what we did. We hired a housekeeper and interviewed that person, and we did create a closet system, a custom closet system for her because she is 3 days in, right? And the other 4 days out because that's her lifestyle. And so we customized that system, color coded a wardrobe, digitized the wardrobe so that she could pack. Because she's packing every week, we made sure that she was able to get to her travel accessories very soon. And then from there, we automated some pieces in her life as far as gifting, right? What she needs to buy this month, what needs to be sent out this month, what maintenance needs to be scheduled this quarter. And I am happy to say that whereas she was needing, I'll say, constant support for about 8 months, she is now down to like a 10-hour retainer, and she's happily in that space. And so that's just one example. Women have to think about so much more when they decide whether or not to take one of these roles. And I think that that's something that's often missed, that people don't think about that.
I definitely, oh my God. I feel you on that, like
Yeah.
being a woman, being a mother, being a daughter, a sister, an
Yeah. She's
aunt,
a sister and a friend. And wow, she doesn't have children, but so what? Right. Like
Right.
her life is still very full. And I think that
Mhm.
sometimes that's missed. Um, and what people give up if they're going to want to pursue their career, as well as still have this family life and the friendships, entertain and enjoy their home as well.
Now you mentioned it took 8 months before, I guess before she really got back to where she wanted to be. Um,
Yes.
on average, how long does it take? Is everyone different? Is there an average amount of time? Can it happen overnight?
So I would say on average, we say 8 weeks. And that's based on if you're transitioning as far as a move from one home to another home, or if you simply need a life organization. That's our sweet spot. We try to stick it out at about 8 weeks based on the size of your household and how long this situation um, has been your reality. We might have to tailor your plan. And some people get comfortable and we have to like force them away. We have to push them off, wean them off, and say, you're okay, right? Because it's a comfort. But, we're confident that we normally can get a person there in about 8 weeks or so.
Okay. All right. So, what advice would you give someone who is feeling discouraged? I know something that comes to mind is if there's like a death of a family close friend
Mhm,
or what have you. Um, and, it's your normal changes, so it's not easy to get back to where you were. And some people fall into chronic disorganization.
mhm.
What advice would you give someone who is just kind of stuck there and they're not sure how to get out and they're not sure if they will get out? What kind of encouragement can you give those people? What steps should they take to kind of make their way out of that?
So the first step, it seems so simple, but it is so powerful. Talk about it. Quite often, when we are dealing with things, we internalize them and we won't talk about it. And then you create mental clutter as well. And so this can be very, very, where it just immobilizes you, like you can't move um, on a decision, right? Um, and you can't think it through. And so that's the first step. And when you talk about it, two things are going to happen. One, you're going to realize it's not just you, because when you talk about it with other people, they're going to share their experiences with you. From that, you might learn something, right? You might find an actionable step. And then two, you take the weight off of your shoulders of this is a me thing or this is a life thing. The two are very closely related. Step one, the 2 points. When you realize that most people have had at least a moment, if not two or three, in life that they felt the same way as you. I think you're going to give yourself permission um, to say that it's okay that it happened. Um, I'm not to blame, and that there has to be resources out there. And then that's when you start that exploration phase where I said you start delegating or looking for the right person to delegate. Another tip would be not to lock in immediately on your first solution. Um, when I see someone dealing with the situation of a death, I think a lot of times that they're dealing with a short window. Maybe you have to empty out an apartment or a home. Maybe there are other parties involved and there's decisions that have to be made. And so, what is meant to be a temporary solution, such as like a storage unit, right? Or taking the stuff, which I dread, to your house, then becomes this situation that is overwhelming. And so I think those are the two steps or points that I would say is talk about it and then not to lock in on like making a quick decision about what your solution is going to be. Because ultimately, it's normally not a long term decision.
This is some really good information. I hope people are taking notes or rewind to write down these little tidbits because I think this is very helpful to people who are going through things who maybe, ordinarily have an organized life, but then, have changes and then just can't get back to where they were. So, I really
Yeah.
hope this resonates with a lot of people.
That brings something to mind very briefly. I'm working with a client who has now found herself in a situation that you might call chronic. When we did the work to work back, to go backwards, her roof fell in.
Whoa.
Dust went everywhere.
Whoa.
She has an autoimmune disease, which limits her energy as well to be able to cope with these things. She's now 3 storage units in,
Oh my
right? That
goodness.
was never the plan. She's a homeowner. So she found me through a listing, and the initial thought was that I was going to help them move into their new space. But then we realized that those quick decisions were made, to handle some things because it had to be. But this is 2 years later, 3 years later. They've been paying for these
Mm.
storage units, right? Living in a space that's smaller than what they're used to, now preparing to move into their new space, which is quite overwhelming, especially when you're dealing with having an autoimmune disease and you know that realistically there's going to be a period of time that you're not going to have the energy to do it. So her husband reached out to me, and I just think that's so beautiful that he wanted to get some assistance for her. But she had to agree to that too. And it took a few weeks for her to agree to that. But once she did, we've been working together now. We've had 3 sessions and we're moving right along. So things happen. And sometimes there's nothing we can do about it, but just move forward.
I love that. I love that, her husband reached out to you. And of course, we need permission of the person who needs the help, right?
Right.
But I think it's important for people to realize that you don't have to do it by yourself. Like, there are professional organizers, that can help you. There are people that are well versed in chronic disorganization, situational disorganization. There are people that can help you, ADHD, whatever hoarding, whatever you're dealing with, there are people that can help you with those different things. So I definitely think that's important for people to know that you don't have to sit there and try to do it by yourself. You can
Right.
find someone to help you.
Yep. And only if you talk about it, right? Well, sometimes you come to know these things. He found me on care.com. I had to think about that. Like, where did he find me? Um, yeah.
I
So,
love that.
mhm.
I love it. Okay, let's lighten the mood a little bit.
Okay.
So, can you tell me what are your favorite organizing products or
Ooh,
productivity tools?
okay. Favorite organizing product right now in this moment, it is a deep pantry bin. I use those in so many spaces, pantries, closets. open shelves. I prefer the acrylic so that you can see what is in them and then they can be labeled as well. They also have a must is that they have a handle on the front. Yeah.
I love an acrylic bin. So the deep pantry bins, how deep are they? So is it like, because generally like a pantry shelf is about 12 inches, maybe 14, maybe 16, but then you have
Yeah.
some, especially like in older homes, that could be like deeper, could be 20 inches. So how deep do they go?
Yeah. So I love the 14-inch, but with the deep pantry bins, now they are realizing like, okay, maybe you need to use two.
Got
So yeah, the everything organizer at the Container Store is a perfect example of that because they have this little lip now that you can attach the next one to. I don't know if
Oh,
you've seen it.
cool. Okay.
Yeah, so
I haven't seen that yet.
say it's a 16-inch, you could combine, right, two sizes to get that and pull them out like that. And so that's what I love about those.
Okay, I love that. I need to add that to my inventory.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yep.
Kimberly, can you tell me what is your greatest professional achievement?
Hmm. Greatest professional achievement. I would have to say sticking to my schedule. So, we've talked about the people I serve, they're busy professionals and executives quite often. That means that they want me to do these projects on the weekend. That's a no go for me. If you recall, one of the main reasons that I created the business was to have time and space for myself, my family, and my community. So the work that I do requires me to have some free time. And I've been able to successfully help hundreds of households while still sticking to, my work boundaries. And so, being able to be an entrepreneur is one thing, but being able to be a healthy entrepreneur, that's a whole nother level. And that is my goal. So I think that's a great accomplishment because I've seen people burn out and yeah, it's
Yeah,
not for me.
I definitely think this is an easy industry to burn out
It
in.
is.
Yeah,
It is. It,
yeah.
it really is. So,
So
and
kudos to
especially when you love what you're doing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, right?
yeah,
Like we're
no,
giving and we give so much and it feels good and we know that people need it, but you have to be, yeah, you have to set your boundaries.
yes. Yeah, kudos to you for setting boundaries. You can probably do a class on setting boundaries for people in our in our industry because there are so many people who don't set those boundaries and like we said, get burned out easily. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's different for everyone. Some people only organize on the weekend and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just, remembering why you started and
yeah.
sticking to that.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for being here. I really appreciated our chat, our conversation. I have some good nuggets of information from you, and I really appreciate it. Can you tell everyone how they can find out more about you?
Absolutely. So you can find us at themodernsteward.com. If you're into behind the scenes and before and afters, you can also find us on every social media platform at themodernsteward.com.
Thank you all for joining us. Be sure to tune in next time for an all new episode.